Hello, everyone. Let us be glad. Let us be grateful. We are here with our non-spoiler review of Wicked for Good. I am so excited to be here, of course, with Jack, who has had we both had a very interesting couple of days, thanks to the Twitter.com.
Yeah.
And yeah, so listen, at the top of the show, I think I just want to start with this note. Everybody calm the fuck down. Nobody should be, you can critique, we can have a spirited debate, and we're about to have one just now, but I think that I was very dismayed, and I don't think this is any of our fans who are watching here now. But it was I was very taken aback by some of the hurtful things that were said just because Jack didn't seem to love the movie. Without further ado, because most of the world knows your thoughts already. Um, Take it away. What are your non-spoiler thoughts on Wicked for Good, as well as some of your awards thoughts? Because of course we'll get into that, because that's also a very interesting conversation now that we've both come on the other side of the yellow brick road.
Yes. My thoughts on Wicked Part 2. As people know, I didn't love the first one. I think that's probably worth mentioning. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. I thought it was probably like a solid 6, maybe 7 out of 10. I'm not a hater of it, as some people seem to think I was. Um, but I think Act 2 is a little bit of a step down from the first one, in my opinion. I think it is extremely rushed, the story. It feels like it moves a mile a minute. Feels like there's not much time to breathe and register all the stuff that is going on before the next thing happens. Everything just moves at a breakneck speed as if it is trying to like wrap up everything all at once. I feel like the way it jumps from scene to scene, there's a little bit like from political tension and all that to certain transformations and certain jokey scenes. I feel like the tone is a little all over the place. I think the second act is darker and heavier, which I appreciated. I think my favorite part of both of these films, and this film in particular, are the performances, especially from the two lead actresses, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Um, I think in the first film, they were my favorite part of that as well. I think they keep both of these films afloat. But in this one, in the first film, I thought they stuck a little bit more to like their caricatures and their like roles. In this one, I think the story becomes a little more complex and a little darker, and I think it allows their performances to show a lot more emotion. And become a little deeper and a little more richer. So both of them, I think, gave better performances in this than they did in the first one. They're both good in the first one as well, but I think the first one just has a lot more like comedic moments and pop singy dancey moments, and this one is a lot more like deeper emotion, which I preferred. They both did very good in those regards. I honestly think this film is more of a Glinda film leading it than honestly Elphaba. I feel like this is a little bit more of her story, and I think Ariana Grande nailed. There's a lot of complex stuff going on with both of them that I think she did very well with. But there's some other stuff like the romance between Elphaba and Fiyero that I feel like it becomes more central in this film, but I don't think it got enough time or nuance to justify how much it shapes the plot that is going on. There's the main thing that people had issue with my review was the way this act leans to try to tie everything back into the Wizard of Oz, the explanations for how the Scarecrow comes in, the Tin Man comes in, the Lion, all of that. They feel very forced and like just kind of shoved in there in a way that I think makes the story feel a little bit clunky and a little convoluted and just not natural. I think it almost feels like they're checking boxes of like what needs to happen before the Wizard of Oz, rather than organic story points. Even the ending, I think, is a little bit of an interesting choice. Obviously, no spoilers. But yeah, I think my main issue with the film is the plot and the way it's rushed and all of the connections to the Wizard of Oz. I think making the story less cohesive and just a little messier overall. But and also this one doesn't have nearly as many good songs, I would say. I liked the No Good Deed song. I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of the musical moments in this are just reprises of some of the best musical moments in the previous film and the original songs. Neither of them really stuck out to me in this one. Obviously they all sing well, but I just none of the songs like I even though I didn't love the first film, I left the first film like I was able to probably like sing for just out of the top
Mhm.
of my head like 3 or 4 of the songs. I don't know if I could do that with any of these here. So I think
Yeah.
less good music as well. So
Well,
I think the performances are the clear standout for me, as I will continue to say.
yeah, I think it's interesting to go on the music first. Also, fair warning, I literally just left the theater like an hour ago.
Yes.
So these are very fresh thoughts for me. Jack has had time to sit with his thoughts. Um, I think when it comes to music, I kind of always knew this to be the case because there really isn't any of the big, ensemble numbers. Like you look at part one, we have No One Mourns the Wicked, you have Dancing Through Life, One Short Day. You have all these big moments for the cast to shine and big, fun, bombastic ways. And part two really doesn't have that. And that's why I think I was surprised that the two new songs they add are both ballads, solo ballads, basically, because they kind of uh, overrepresent those sort of songs in a story that already has enough of those. I also think that the reason why No Good Deed really pops is because it is one of the more fiery songs, and it has that sort of rush that I do
It
think
has
the
energy
movie
to it.
it has energy, and so I think this is where I'm very conflicted because I think that I was always in support of them splitting the movie because, frankly, part one was more exactly and more what I wanted out of that story, and I think how they did define gravity and how they ended on that note was brilliant. Um, so I was always in support of the split, but now having seen how they expounded on the second act, I am surprised with how not a lot really happens, and the stuff that does happen is very Wizard of Oz centric. I think what shocked me is that the characters don't really have a lot of change in their stories. And this, of course, the tagline is "You will be changed." It's funny that there isn't a lot of change to these characters. A lot of them are who they are at the beginning, where they are at the end, and it's kind of just everybody just slowly just making like one small choice that puts them in a different path. So I thought that
Did
was
the
surprising.
character changes feel earned to you? Like the few changes that did happen felt kind of like they came out of nowhere to me, in my
Well,
opinion.
again, I have the knowledge of the show, but the show,
Yeah.
this happens over 45 minutes where the first part just happened. So, for example, I think what I was really surprised with, and even though adding Glinda into Wonderful kind of mitigates this, the lack of screen time that Alphaba and Glinda have in this second part really does weigh the story down because there's this great quote that Stephen Schwartz was told, like at one of the first readings, which is like a test screening for the musical, way, 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 way back 25 years ago. And he was told by this friend of his that whenever those two girls are on stage together, you're golden. And anytime they're not, you're in trouble. And I feel like that's why I was surprised that the movie spends a lot of time with them not together. Because then when you get to For Good, which is a beautiful, to see them sing that song is just beautiful and stunning, and it will move you. You get glimpses of what a lot of part one was and what part two isn't. So it's very interesting to sit here because the other thing that I think many people will be surprised is there's a lot of changes. I don't know that they change a lot from the original story of the musical, but there's a lot added here. And so compared to part one, where the additions were more like letting a moment breathe more, here we are telling in some ways a very different story with different scenes put in here that do provide a different perspective to look at these events and these characters. And so it is interesting. It did feel to me more like a sequel to a definitive part one rather than the full arc of this story, which again was a very interesting place for me to be in, given that I've only, clearly my whole life, all the 14 times I've seen the show, I've only seen this as one story. So I think that was also what
Yes.
interested me. Um, as far as your point about Glinda being the main character, I've always felt that and attested that that's what this second act is, to the point that in the first act of the show on Broadway, when Defying Gravity ends, the spotlight stays on Elphaba a second longer, and they do the same thing in the second act, except the spotlight stays on Glinda a second longer, her high in her bubble, the way that Elphaba's high in Defying Gravity, kind of mirroring the choices that the characters make. And I always felt that part one is about Elphaba becoming the Wicked Witch. Part two is about Glinda becoming Glinda the Good. I think that's why I'm surprised that she really is supporting actress. Her arc kind of does happen like that
Yeah.
at the very end. So I think structurally, I don't know if the movie kind of, with the additional time, I don't know if I feel like you would think the additional time would mean they would fix a lot of the pacing issues from the show. I don't know if they do that. I think they just kind of took the same problem and looked at it from a different lens. It's a weird thing where I feel like the movie
Yeah.
both like rushes and limps to the finish line. But I want to say
Yeah,
that I think that a lot of the technical craft of the film continues to be the case, as we would assume. I actually think this looks better than the first film in some regards. I think the lighting is better than this first film. I think the colors pop a little bit more, which again is interesting given the the um, the tone of the story, that the
darker.
colors kind of,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, and I think the performances are really strong, as always. These actors really understand and love these characters. And I'm particularly impressed because I think that the supporting characters get more to do this time. And all of them, I think, do great. You know, Ethan Slater and Marissa Bodie, they in particular really impressed me because there are additional scenes for them, and they rise to the occasion. On that note, I do think a difference between part one and part two when it comes to the music is that more of the actors who singing is not their strong suit are called upon to sing. And so that definitely
there's like
does,
no dancing in this at all.
yeah, very little dancing. And so musically, it is a little bit more inconsistent than the first film. And so I think, again, I know people are going to be like, oh my God, Antony, I can't believe you're saying this. I think if you love Wicked, you're going to get a lot of highs, and you're going to enjoy finishing the journey. And it definitely has its moments. I think, again, what I'm reacting to currently in this very fresh reaction is that it's the first film. I just rewatched it last night. I still maintain that that is the movie they needed to make, and they took the time they needed, and every moment is earned and needed. This feels like an extended cut that you like. I feel like the editor still needs to like whittle down. There's a lot of scenes here that I just think don't are not necessary and do distract a little bit from the story of Wicked in favor of the Wizard of Oz. I understand it's the prequel, as people have made it clear to Jack over the week.
Yeah, I
But I
think we
think
all
what he's
understand that, everyone.
yeah, what I think he's reacting to, and frankly, what I'm reacting to as well, is that what made Wicked Part One so special, they seem to be less of those moments here in place of the Wizard of Oz connections, and that's where I think the issue is. I think if you're adding scenes, like there were more scenes connecting it to the Wizard of Oz than there are in the show, and that came at the sacrifice of scenes where Fiyero gets to have a little bit more shading to his character. A lot of these characters, again, they're where they are at the beginning, and they don't really change that much by the end. It's a very reactive plot, and I was surprised with that because I think part of what was so beautiful about the first film was the evolution of these characters and how they grow and change to the point that we get to define gravity, and you feel like you've gone on this wonderful journey. I feel like I didn't get that necessarily with Glinda. I think Glinda is who she is at the beginning, and you kind of check in with her midway through, and then you come back to her and she sings for good, and Girl in the Bubble.
Yeah.
So yeah. To be honest, I am very surprised to be here. I still think it's a worthy it's a worthy film. But there was a part of me that felt like this might have been the price that we pay to have Wicked Part One, which is it's again it's an interesting place to be. It's not the place I thought I would be.
Yeah, I think the connections in the first one to The Wizard of Oz, I think kind of enhanced the story in a way where I feel like it kind of
Mhm,
constrains from the story here. I think it kind of
mhm,
takes away. I think the main focus, like you said, the main focus should be on these two lead actresses and their connection. I think that's when the movie works the
mhm.
best. And
Yeah.
a lot of those connections do take away from that being the central focus
Mhm.
in this film.
I think that again, a lot. It's hard to talk about because just watch our Part One review. A lot of the technical stuff is still impressive. The production design, the
Well, they
costume
were made at
design,
the same time. Yeah, it's
yeah,
on the same level.
the makeup
The
though, I
makeup
think
improves
definitely,
in this. Yeah.
yeah, because it has to.
There are some sort, but there are also CGI
Mhm,
moments that I think could have been makeup, I would
mhm.
say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if we want to go into like final thoughts, and then we can jump over to the
Mhm.
Oscars at this point.
Yeah.
I think I've said most of what I had to say, honestly. I think the only other thing I would mention is the resolution at the end, which there were parts of this story that I was aware of going into it, like certain characters and transformations and such. The end, I was not aware of how the film and the story was going
Oh,
to end.
really?
I was not aware of that. I actually thought certain things happened that maybe did not. And that felt a little unearned to me, in my opinion. The resolution felt a little too simple and easy, and especially what happens societally. I feel like there are certain like the stuff that's going on with the animals, and then who is in charge of what, and then how things end. It just kind of feels like, oh, this happened, and now everything is happy.
Well, and I do think, dare I mention another controversial thing, because I'm sure this is going to be controversial. But part of what I admired about the ending of Game of Thrones is that it was showing kind of the problems that happen when people put all of their faith in one person. And the
Mhm.
ideology, when you constrict your entire worldview to the actions of one individual. And I do think that for a story that wants, especially in the second part, that kind of dictates that this is more trying to confront political questions and just issues. I do think that as much as I want to believe that if we just elected Ariana Grande president, that everybody's issues would be automatically fixed, I do think the movie very quickly to try and um, finish her character arc then doesn't is not that interested in answering and asking the same political questions it was asking at the beginning of the movie because it wants to get to the end. I just think I can say clearly that I can enjoy the movie, but I came out of part one and still to this day think it is a great film. I don't know if I would say that this is a great film, but it's a good, fun movie. And it has a lot of fun moments. And I think, again, if you're wanting to have a great time, I think you're going to have a great time. The last shot in particular was very clever, very well done.
I forget it, but
So,
yeah,
yeah,
I don't quite
I,
remember.
well, I think the fans of the musical are going to lose their mind. And so again, like there's a lot here. I want to be clear. I'm not. I had a good time. I just think it's a very different movie than part one, and in many ways, maybe that also says why it needed to be split. So
I have
any other, yeah,
one
you go.
question for you before we get into the Oscar thing.
Of
What is the
course.
time gap between the first one and the second one? Because the first one opens up with Glinda being like, "Oh yes, we did meet back in school," and it seems like all nostalgic, like it was a while ago. But then the way this plays out, it seems like that happened like 5 months ago. Like
So
what's
we
the timeline
hear
there?
over the Universal logo like 12 something, the number 12, which I then I'm going to assume that means
12
it's a year.
months. Okay.
I think it's a year.
That's
Which
okay.
granted doesn't really fix your question. It is
No,
true.
no.
And I don't rate movies, but I think, and I frankly don't necessarily believe in Rotten Tomatoes, but I think we would probably both give this a fresh. And
I would
there's,
not.
oh, you would not. Never
Well,
mind. I,
it's a 5 out of 10 fresh. That's what I would
no,
give
that
it.
is rotten.
Okay, then no. Because the first was like a
Never
six
mind.
or seven, and I think this is a little
All right,
worse,
well
but
then
it's
you're the green
close.
tomato, and I guess
I'm
this is
the
close to
green.
red.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I think there's a lot here, and I do think what's interesting is that this does kind of play like a Hunger Games Mockingjay Part Two. It does play like a big event finale, and I think we're not used to seeing those with only one movie ahead of it.
There's not as much, I think, in general, energy in this film. Like there are multiple, like there's really besides that one scene where they also a little bit of a nitpick. I mean, they show this in the trailers. Like she dances with the wizard and is like smiling and happy when she like has a whole
Mhm,
vendetta against him and hates him. I didn't
mhm.
understand what
I
that whole
see.
moment.
I like that moment just because I felt, obviously you come in not liking the wizard, but I kind of felt like the movie. I felt like Elphaba, like I was being won over with the charm of Jeff Goldblum, and I like the song and Ariana Grande's here. Like I don't
I
know,
could believe,
that
I just felt
kind
like
of
it happened a
that
little too
worked for
quickly.
me.
Like she was pretty much
Yes,
like, okay, fine, I'll dance with you guys, even though you have like muted my goat
yeah,
teacher and are like making my animal friends run away.
yeah. I
But yeah,
did. That was some great parallel editing. I will say. I won't say where, but I thought that was very apt as far as the different lives that Elphaba and Glinda are leading, which
Mhm.
happens right after that. So you'll know. Okay, so awards. I don't
Before we
know
get
if.
into it, let's just
Oh,
say we are recording this before the review embargo has dropped. So we have no clue
yes.
what the reviews will look like. I think neither of
Mhm.
us have a great idea, I think, what the numbers will be. So if it is worse than expected or better than expected, our thoughts on this could change. But right now, these are our thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I think it will not be as well received as the first film, but I do
It'll
think
be a little
people
lower, but not
maybe a
supremely
little
low.
lower, but not super. I could see it, I think the first one got like 88%. I could see this getting anywhere between 75 and 85, you know. So we'll see. I think as far as awards go, I do think I think directing and writing, editing, no. I think any of those top sort of nominations outside of picture, I don't see it getting
Those are the
nominated for.
weaknesses of the film.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, as for the crafts, I think they could still perform very strong. I think having heard both these songs, again, Eternal Love to Stephen Schwartz, I would not be here without you, but I think Golden is
I
pretty
don't think
set.
either of them are that good.
Well, again, they're not that definitive. I think that's the real, like, they kind of start and they flow in the end. I actually, I felt like I like the message of Girl in the Bubble more, but I think No Place Like Home was a better song.
That's a much
So
better song in my opinion. Girl in the
yeah,
Bubble was kind of like mellow. I think I could like there was
yeah.
I think I would just maybe prefer Cynthia as a singer as well. Don't hate me, Arianators, but I think that
I
song
thought,
had more
yeah.
energy and purpose to the story than Girl in the Bubble did.
I think, listen, Ari is fantastic, and we can talk about her now. I still think that she is good, positioned well for supporting actress. I think because it's a way to honor the film in a big
Hmm.
way, and I do think there's going to be a desire to do that. I also think her competition is very
Weak.
sparse.
Yeah.
Um, I think it depends on the sort of rush that people have for one battle after another, if Teyana Taylor can come along for the ride. Also, given how the rest of the awards are shaking up, it doesn't look like one battle is going to win another acting award, and that might be the
That's
acting award it
yeah.
wins, which could hurt Ariana. She's clearly a supporting performance. I truly maintain that now, having seen the film. And I
Grande?
do think, yeah, for
I
sure.
think she's a lead.
No, I
Really?
just don't.
I thought you said
It
this was her
may.
story though.
I agree, but I don't think I don't. I think it is her story, and yet she's the supporting character. Because there are major parts of this movie where she's not in the story.
Well, you can
Like,
say that for both of them though.
yeah, but I there was always a sense with Cynthia that the story was
Who do
like
you think has
the
more
story
screen
was.
time?
Oh, I think Cynthia for sure.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure.
Maybe I'm wrong. I think the story reacts to the actions of Elphaba more than it reacts to the actions of Glinda. In this, yes, the last 10 minutes, it becomes Glinda's movie. But before that,
In like
it's
the
very much
first
Alphabet.
10 or
I
15.
don't know. I don't know.
I'll be interested to see the numbers when it comes out.
yes, very. But I feel like she's firmly in supporting, and I think she still could win. Um, but I do think, again, I wonder how this is going to play to non-Wicked fans. I think that's the big question. Because I think the craft is not like the thing about like you look at Black Panther Wakanda Forever, there were such different uses of Ruthie Carter's talents that it stuck out.
Yeah.
It's not really that much different on a craft
For the
level between part one
costumes.
and part two. Costumes, production design,
Yeah.
it's
There's some
it
stuff,
doesn't
but it's not major.
it doesn't scream like, well, we have to give this to you when we have like Frankenstein, which is doing, stuff, beautiful work right there.
Cool
Every time Mia
stuff.
Goth walks on state on screen, it's like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly like it's crazy to think like I
Wins nothing.
it either wins nothing or it wins Ariana Grande, which is crazy.
Yeah. I do
But
think when
that
we
could
look
be the
at
world we live in.
when I look at Grande's performance in this film versus the first one, I think the first one was a much more like comedic kind of performance, whereas I think this one is more the kind of, especially in like the supporting actress in a musical, you look at the performances that have won there, it's more
Mhm.
emotional. She's got a lot of crying scenes, she's got emotional singing scenes. So I do think of the two performances in the two films, this leans more towards the type of supporting actress in a musical performance than the first one does.
Mhm.
But I do still agree
And
with
she
you.
will get points for part one. I mean,
She will.
people will remember that
Just
performance.
like Timmy
And I
for
do,
Marty last year will for
yeah.
Complete Unknown last year will get it this year. Yeah.
And I do think that the movie, the best parts, I think it ends on its strongest note. And those are and no offense to Cynthia, but I do think those are the moments when Ari is kind of taking control of the movie and on her own in a way, which is good because it means that that's the note you leave on is that Ariana Grande, if the whole movie is about Ariana Grande earning this title of Glinda the Good, the fact that she does earn it, maybe not as powerfully as Defying Gravity in the last one, but I do think that it is
I
good
think
for her.
that's why this maybe didn't work as because I care more about the Elphaba storyline than the Glinda storyline, and I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion, I think she takes a backseat in this compared to Glinda
Hmm.
in their story developments. I do think there's a world where it drops out of picture. I don't think so yet, but if the
Hmm.
reviews are like bad tomorrow, then I think there's a world where it's like Wakanda Forever, where it maybe gets one acting and then some text, and it doesn't
Now, are
maybe.
you saying bad 70s or are you saying bad like rock?
I'm saying bad like 60s on Rotten Tomatoes, maybe
Okay.
like 50s on Metacritic.
Okay. I don't know necessarily what would take its place. I think that's the issue. So we'll see.
I
But
mean,
I
Avatar,
won't rule it
if you don't
out.
have
That's
Avatar,
true. That's
that's
true.
another blockbuster that will come out.
That's true.
Um, yeah, I think it's plausible. That's something we'd have to wait and see reviews for. Right now I'm gonna keep
Hmm.
it in there because I don't think the reviews are. I think they'll be a little lower than the first, but I don't think they'll be like majorly lower. But yeah, I mean, if I were to tally it, I would say picture. I still think it'll probably get both the actresses.
Hmm.
Then I don't know if it would get casting. I'm iffy on how that will work in that category with a sequel
Hmm.
overall. And then yeah, production design, costume design, makeup. Visual effects, the first one got it. And maybe, do you think both the songs get in there?
I don't know. I want to see what their general reaction is to them first. It's tough.
Which one
They're
do
not
you think has a better
hummable.
shot?
I don't know. I think I can't decide because I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
I
either. I'm
can't.
leaning the Cynthia Erivo No Place Like Home one, but the reaction is it seems like most people like Girl in the Bubble more. So I don't
Yeah,
know, maybe.
we'll
I
see.
think one of them will probably get in there, but it is a super. I honestly think that there's a world where both Sinners songs now get in instead of two Wicked songs,
We'll see.
or
But
two K-pop songs.
that is our review for Wicked for Good. Please let us know in the comments what you think, and please be respectful. And we'll, of course, be talking Wicked again soon. So make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And yeah, thank you again. It's been quite a journey. It's not over. And we hope you all enjoy your trip down the yellow brick road. All right. Bye, everyone.